Hey, what's up everybody, Retro Gaming Guy here. Today in this video we're going to dive into an old school third-party controller for the original Xbox console. This is the Gamester FPS Master controller. FPS standing of course for first-person shooter. The design of this obviously looks like a gun or maybe even two guns in one, and the idea of this was to actually simplify the gameplay experience and give you an upper hand when playing first-person shooter games, because it actually reroutes your 4 buttons on top of your gamepad controller to the insides of your handles. So we're going to take a closer look at this controller, and then we're going to dive into Halo 2 and test it out. Let's get started. All right, here we have the Gamester FPS Master controller for the original Xbox console. This is a 10-button setup here, and I'm actually going to bring in an original Xbox controller here so you can see the difference. Now, notice on the original Xbox controller, yes, we have dual analog sticks and a D-pad, same as we have here on the Gamester, but we have 6 buttons over here, A, B, X, and Y, which are not on this controller. Now, we do have our white button and black, and they're actually, oddly enough, labeled white and black on here. So they do line up kind of in the same spot, at least, not really in the same sort of orientation, but still in the same spot. But our A, B, X, and Y are relocated to the handles. So notice how your hands automatically just line up with those if you're holding this, with your fingers on the triggers. The idea of this controller was to simplify things and to give you an advantage when playing first-person shooter games. So you don't have to reposition or, have any sort of awkward combination of buttons in your gameplay experience. You can simply map things to be exactly where you want them. So you do have to get used to this, I imagine. I've not yet played with this, but all your buttons are lined up right in here. The action on them does seem to be quite good. They do seem to be slightly hinged a little bit in that, well, I guess they're not hinged. It just seems like the sweet spot seems to be closer towards the front, or I guess this would be the back of the controller. That definitely seems to be where the sweet spot is. Up here, just doesn't have the same action. So that does make sense, though. You just would have to get used to, I think, squeezing your fingers in that motion, which definitely is different because we don't have any other gamepad controllers, especially back then, that had that sort of functionality to them. Now we do. We do have these buttons, not as many, but we do have these buttons on some of the Xbox style controllers. But we also have a slot up here for a memory card. Here is how this looks if you're looking at it, front ways. Definitely seems to be a good controller, very comfortable. We also have presets here, so we have preset 1, 2, and 3. This screen right here does light up when you power this on, I imagine. We have an enter button, reset button, and a menu button, so you can actually remap this to be different configurations for different games. Up to 3 presets, so if you like, having these buttons set up one particular way for maybe Halo or Halo 2 versus another first-person shooter, you can just go in and, switch off your presets. So definitely seems like an interesting controller, definitely a large size controller. In fact, it is bigger than the Duke controller for the original Xbox. So I think the size of this, while it does look very large, is a little bit deceiving, though, because where your hands are on here, all the action is centrally located. You obviously have a big surface up here, but you're not utilizing anything up here. This is all presets. This isn't anything that you would be interacting with during the gameplay experience. Everything that you would be using is literally right here. So again, it does look very big and chunky, but it's not a surface that you really need to navigate or worry about at all when you're diving into games. So we're going to now give this a go, test it out. This will be my first time using this, and I have Halo 2 ready to go inside this original Xbox console. So we're going to fire it up, test it out.
Field of fire on that bulkhead. As soon as that door opens, let them have it.
Got it.
Open weapons rocker.
I think I'm gonna need a squad at Habitat Alpha ASAP. Brace for impact.
Alright guys, absolutely loved playing with this controller. It's a cool sort of experience, and the cool thing about this too is I've played Halo 2 hundreds of times. I've beaten Halo 2 hundreds of times. So it's not that it's a boring game, but it's a game I'm very much used to. With this particular controller, it adds a new sort of spin on things. It gives you a different experience. Obviously the game is exactly the same game, but the experience of playing it differs with a new controller. It does take getting used to. I see what Gamester was going for with this and trying to give the player an advantage with playing first-person shooter games. For me, the struggle is I've been playing Xbox games for 2 decades. I've been playing Halo games for 2 decades, so I'm so used to the original controls, and even original Halo to the latest version of Halo, the controls really haven't changed all that much. So I just have that muscle memory for 2 decades plus of, you know, having that experience with things. It's hard to go to a totally different setup here, even though I see that it does actually simplify things to have those buttons inside the actual handles. It does take some getting used to say the least. After about 15 minutes or so, I started to get a feel for it, but there's no amount of time that's going to combat, you know, 20 plus years of playing Halo and original Xbox games a certain way. If I got into the Gamester controller here early on, and that's how I played first-person shooter games, it would be a completely different, you know, situation entirely. But I think Gamester was definitely ahead of their time with this particular setup. I know that they've done some niche sort of controllers for other consoles as well. They have one for GameCube, they have something for Game Boy Advance, and I know they have the same exact controller that we have here for Xbox for PS2 as well. So they've done some weird sort of cool, unique designs for controllers with different things in mind. But I'm not sure how it played out for them. I don't know if they were in business for a long period of time or if they were sort of a flash in the pan and, you know, it fizzled out after a while. But they were definitely ahead of their time because we're seeing controllers now with those buttons built into the handles. And especially with PC gaming, I see a lot of stuff coming out now that incorporates those controls there because it is a really comfortable sort of setup. Just takes getting used to. So kudos to Gamester for being ahead of the time. Sometimes, you know, the first person to figure things out like that, though, you know, don't find success with it, but over time, it does seem to catch on. So pretty cool experience here, though. Let me know what you guys thought of the Gamester here, FPS Master for the original Xbox. Is this something that you're familiar with? This was out back, this was actually made in 2003. I never experienced this controller, though, back in the day, and I was a big Xbox gamer. Never even knew it existed. Is this your first time hearing about this? Did you know about this? Have you played with this? Did you have one? Let me know in the comments below. Definitely interested to see how many people knew about this controller and experienced, you know, gaming with it. So hit me up in the comments section. Give me a thumbs up on the video here if you enjoyed the content today. That's going to do it. If you haven't yet hit subscribe, go ahead and do that right now just to stay in the loop for all future videos right here on the Retro Gaming Guy YouTube channel. But that is going to do it for today. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you on the next video.